Enjoy the journey of learning with Anil Kumar. Here is solution of question number 1. The top of a lighthouse is 90 meters above the sea level. The angle of elevation from the deck of a sailboat to the top of the lighthouse is 26 degrees. Calculate the distance between the sailboat and the lighthouse. In this case, the first step will be to sketch the diagram. We are talking about a sailboat which is some distance away, making an angle of elevation of 26 degrees to the top of the lighthouse. So, let's say that this is the sea level and we are able to see a lighthouse somewhere, the angle of elevation being 26 degrees. So we can label this diagram. So that is 26 degrees. This is assumed to be at right angles. Top of the lighthouse is 90 meters, so this side is 90 meters. So let's say this is the boat for us, right? So this is the top of lighthouse. We need to calculate the distance between the sailboat and the lighthouse. So let this distance be x. So that is what we need to calculate. Perfect. So now our sketch matches the description. We have a right angle triangle. So we can see that we have a triangle which is BLT in this case, which is a right triangle. Perfect. So we can apply the trigonometric ratios to solve it. Amongst the ratios we have learned, sine is the ratio of opposite to hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent to hypotenuse, tan is opposite to adjacent. So which ratio should you use to solve the question? If you look from the angle 26, we are looking at the side which is opposite to 26 and to the other side which is adjacent. So that means opposite and adjacent means we are looking at the trigonometric ratio tan. So I hope first concept this should be very clear. Which ratio to use to solve the problem? Since opposite and adjacent sides are involved with the angle, tangent ratio is the right thing. So we can write down now the equation in terms of tangent ratio. So we get tan of 26 degrees as equal to the ratio of opposite side, which is 90, over what we need to find, distance of the boat from the lighthouse, x. Cross multiply to solve this equation, x equals to 90 divided by tan of 26. Absolutely clear, right? Use calculator. You should set the mode to degrees. So we have 90 divided by tan of 26 degrees, and that gives us 184.52. Correct. So we'll write down our answer that the distance is approximately, we can approximate it to a whole number, right? In this case, 185 meters. Correct. Makes sense, right? So we found that it was 184.52. Sometimes it is given in the question, rounded to so many places. In this case, it is not given. And looking at the numbers 90 meters and 26 degrees, it makes sense to make it a whole number. So we can say that the distance of the sailboat from the lighthouse is 185 meters. I hope it is absolutely clear. Enjoy the journey of learning with Anil Kumar. Here is solution of question number 2. A ladder 12 feet long is leaning against a wall at a 75 degrees angle. How far high up the wall does the ladder reach? So in such questions, we should actually sketch the diagram to understand the situation and then solve them. So let's say this is the ground and we are talking about a wall which would be at right angles, a ladder leaning against the wall. So the situation is like this. We are given that the ladder is 12 feet long, so length of the ladder is 12 feet. Leaning against the wall at 74 means this angle of 74 degrees. How far high up the wall does the ladder reach? So how far high? We don't know. Let it be h, right? Let's label this as, let's say, ABC. Now, in this particular diagram, you see it's a right angle triangle. That means we could solve using trigonometric ratios. And the three ratios are sine is ratio of sine opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is opposite over adjacent side. So if you look from 74 degrees, we are given the side which is opposite and the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse is given to us, and therefore sine ratio should be used. Makes sense, right? H is the height which we need to find. We can write down our equation in sine. So we have sine of 74 degrees equals to the ratio of opposite side, which is h, height, which we need to find, hypotenuse 12. And from here, we can cross multiply. So 12 times sine 74 degrees is equals to the height. We can now use the calculator to find the answer. Calculator should be set in degrees. So 12 times sine of 74 degrees gives us a value of 11.53. So we can actually round it to one decimal place and we can say that the height is equal to 11.5, the units being feet. So it can reach a maximum height of 11.5 in this situation. I hope it makes sense. Enjoy the journey of learning with Anil Kumar. Let us understand step by step solution to the word problem. Question number 3. A ladder 12 feet long is leaning against a wall at a 75 degrees angle. How far from the wall is the foot of the ladder? First step is to sketch the diagram. So let's say that this is the ground and that's the wall we are talking about, which will be at 90 degrees. Ladder making an angle of 74 degrees is shown here. So this angle is 74 degrees. A ladder 12 feet along, 12 feet long. 12 feet long means that this length is 12 feet. Length of the ladder is against a wall at 74 angle. How far from the wall is the foot of the ladder? Means we have to find this distance, x. Make sense? Perfect. We can label the diagram. So we have here a ladder, let's say L, A, and this is the bottom. Let's call it D. So now, what we are given is L to D, which in this right angle triangle is adjacent to the angle 74 degrees, a side between 74 degrees and 90 degrees. and we are given the hypotenuse of this right angle triangle. So, which trigonometric ratio relates to that? This is what you need to figure out first. We know SOHCAHTOA. Sine is ratio of opposite to hypotenuse, cos is adjacent to hypotenuse, and tan is opposite to adjacent. In the given scenario, we are talking about two sides which are adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse means we have to use cosine ratio. Perfect. So we can write down that cos of the angle 74 degrees is equal to adjacent side x divided by the length of the ladder, which is 12 feet. It is as simple as that. Perfect. Now we can cross multiply to find the value of x. Means 12 times cos of 74 degrees is equal to x, which is the distance of the foot of the ladder from the wall. Use calculator to calculate this value. 12 times cos of 74. The calculator should be in degrees, and we get an answer which is 3.30. Units are feet, so we'll say x, which is how far from the wall, is the foot of the ladder. So we can say foot of the ladder is 3.3 feet away from the wall. Clear? So that is how we are going to solve this question. I hope the concept is absolutely clear. Thanks for your valuable time and all the best. Enjoy the journey of learning with Anil Kumar. Here is step-by-step solution of the word problem, question number 4. The angle of elevation to the top of the Niagara Falls from the boat, which is 60 feet away, is measured as 72 degrees. Find the height of Niagara Falls to the nearest feet. As you can see in the picture, we are interested in finding this height of Niagara Falls, and we're talking about a boat as seen in the picture. I will just enlarge it so that we can clearly understand and solve the problem. So what we have here is a boat at the level of the water, and the waterfall is right there. Correct. So we'll assume that this is a 90 degrees angle, and the distance of the boat is given to us as 60 feet. Let's say the Niagara Fall is right falling from here, so we'll just draw kind of like this. So this distance of boat B from Niagara Falls, let's say NA, is given to us as 60 feet. And also we are given the angle 72 degrees. Angle of elevation is the angle which is like line of sight. It makes with the horizontal. And we need to find the height of the Niagara Falls. So let h be the height of the Niagara Falls, correct? So we have defined a variable. H is the height of the Niagara Falls, right? So that's the figure which we are going to follow. Now, Since it is a right angle triangle, we can easily use trigonometric ratios. The two sides of interest are adjacent and the opposite side with reference to the angle 72 degrees. So think about trigonometric ratios. Sine is a ratio of opposite to hypotenuse, cosine adjacent to hypotenuse, and tan is opposite to adjacent. So in this particular case, with reference to the angle 72 degrees given, we are looking at opposite side and the adjacent side. And therefore, tan ratio will be used. So we can write down our equation, which is tan of 72 degrees is equal to opposite side, which is h, over adjacent side, which is 60 feet. So answer will be feet. So from here, cross multiply, we get 60 times tan 72 is equal to the height. Use calculator to find the answer. Calculator should be set in degrees. 60 times tan 72. And that gives you 184.66. The height is in feet. We can round our answer to approximately equal to 185 feet. Make sense? So height in this case is 185 feet of Niagara Falls. I hope all the steps are absolutely clear. Enjoy the journey of learning with Anil Kumar. Here is another beautiful application question. Let us try to understand how do we solve it. Question number 5. The Skylon Tower in Niagara Falls is about 526 feet high. From a certain distance, Anil measures the angle of elevation to the top of the tower to be 66 degrees. So this is angle of elevation. Then he walks away another 65 feet in the same direction and measures the angle of elevation again. Determine the measure of this angle. So we need to find the angle of elevation measured second time when Anil walks 65 feet away from its original position. So let us first sketch a diagram to understand this situation. So let's say this is the ground and the tower, which is 526 feet, is shown here. It will be assumed to be at 90 degrees. Height of this tower is 526 feet. So measuring the angle of elevation from a particular position, let's that position be A for Anil. We don't really know the distance from the foot of the tower. So let's say the tower is ST. But we know the angle of elevation, which is 66 degrees. He then walks away 65 feet. So we know he walks away means it will be kind of like this to the position B. And from A to B, it is 65 feet. Determine the measure of this angle of elevation. So now we really want to find what is this angle at B. Correct? So let's call this angle of elevation as theta. So I hope the diagram is absolutely clear. The strategy is going to be that first we'll solve the right angle triangle ATS and find A to S. Let this distance be x. Once we know x, then we also know the distance from B to S, and so that will be this distance, which is x plus 65. And then we are going to solve the second right angle triangle BST. Perfect. So I think you have understood the approach. Now, let us solve it one by one. So, first in the triangle, which is AST, we are looking at the angle, and from the angle, we are looking at opposite and adjacent side, right? So, we can use the tan ratio. Since you know SOHCAHTOA, right? Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, tan is opposite over adjacent. Now, in this case, we are working with opposite and adjacent side, so we are going to use tan ratio, right? So we can write down that tan of the angle of elevation 66 degrees is equal to opposite side of 526 divided by the unknown length which we want to find as x, correct? Cross multiply to find the value of x. So x will be 526 divided by tan 66. Let's use calculator. It should be set in degrees. 526 divided by tan of 66 gives us 234.19. So we have the value of x, right? Now we can find B2S. So we'll solve now the triangle which is BST, right? This is also a right angle triangle. And in this triangle, we know now that B2S, this distance is x plus 65, which is 234.19 plus 65, correct? So we'll add 65 to this, and we know it is equal to 299.19. Clear? So that is the base BS. Now in this triangle again, we are looking at two things, which is opposite and adjacent side with reference to the angle of elevation theta, which we need to find. So now we can write down tan theta is equal to the opposite side, which is 526, over adjacent, which is 299.19. So that gives you the value of 526 divided by 299.19 is 1.75808. So tan theta is this. That really means that the angle of elevation theta will be equal to tan inverse, right, of 1.75808. Minimum, you should round it to 4 decimal places, right? So we just wrote the value, it's there in the calculator. And now we are going to find shift tan inverse we'll get of the answer, which is 1.75808, and we get the angle as 60.368. Correct. So we can round this to around 60 degrees. So that becomes the angle of elevation from point B rounded to a whole number. Perfect. So I hope you understand each and every steps. Enjoy the journey of learning with Anil Kumar. Let us understand how do we solve application questions. Question number 6 here is Brian is 100 meters south of CN Tower. He moves 50-meter east to get a clear view of the tower and then measures the angle of elevation to the top as 75 degrees. Find the height of CN Tower to the nearest centimeter. A diagram is given to us. We need to label, understand, and then start solving the problem. So let us say the CN Tower is CT for us. where T is the top and C is the base. Now, Bran is 100 meters south of CN Tower. So let's say B is the position of Bran, which is 100 meters south of C. He moves 50 meters east. So this direction here is east. South and east are at right angles, and therefore the angle formed here is 90 degrees. So that is kind of very critical to understand in this particular case. And then we are given the angle of elevation to the top is 75 degrees as shown. Perfect. So I think now the things are very clear to us. We have two right angle triangles. So let us first solve the triangle which is CB, and let's call this as A, right? From where the angle of elevation is being measured. So triangle CBA. In triangle CBA, we can relate the sides with Pythagorean theorem. So we can say C to A whole square is equal to CB square plus BA square. So sum of squares of these legs of a right angle triangle will be square of hypotenuse. So we can find what is CA from here. CB square means 100 square plus 50 square, that gives you CA square. So we can now calculate CA, which will be square root of 100 square, 4 zeros, plus 50 square, 25, and 2 zeros. Let's use calculator to find this value. So we have 100 times 100 plus 2500. The value is 12500, and square root of this is, in decimals, we get CA as equal to 111.8. Let's write 80, since we really want to measure to the nearest centimeter. So we now know that C to A is 111.8. We need to find the height of CN tower. So it should be, let's say, H or C to T. So looking from A, we are given two sides. So the sides here which are related are the adjacent and the opposite side. The trigonometric ratio which can help us solve this out of the three known to you, which is, you remember SOHCAHTOA? Sine is the ratio of opposite to hypotenuse, cosine adjacent to hypotenuse, and tan is opposite to adjacent. Here, with reference to 75, we are looking at tan ratio. Since we are interested in height, which is the opposite side, and adjacent side is 111.80. So we can now write down tan of the angle given to us, which is 75 degrees, equals to the height h over 111.80. So the height h is cross multiply 111.80 times tan of 75 degrees. Let's calculate. So we have 111.8 into tan 75. It gives us 417.24. The units are in meters. We want to write it to the nearest centimeter, right? So that is how we are going to round and write down our answers. It was actually 243, so I'm writing this height as 417.24 meters. You get the idea. So we have rounded to the nearest centimeter, hundredth of a meter. Perfect. So that is how we are going to solve this question. I hope the steps are absolutely clear. Thank you.